So welcome to the second session of our Athlete and Learning Lab series. We're glad that you guys joined us for today's breakdown on LinkedIn. And we really think that this is going to be a great progression from last week's session on personal branding. Obviously, these are going to be ways that you can continue to develop your personal brand online through LinkedIn.
Athlete, as I mentioned last week, was built with the player in mind. It's really to encourage players to start thinking about what their careers, passions, and interests are off the court and off the field. And so with this hashtag, it's all about the athlete. And with these Learning Lab series, it's the same motto. And so my hope is that, each athlete on this call gets something out of this. During this time, you could have chosen to do or be anywhere else. But we see that you're trying to get better. And so with that, that's what we partner with organizations like AthLife, and they're putting money behind resources and programs that help with your development off the field and off the court.
My name's Carrie White. I serve as the Chief Operating Officer at AthLife. Some familiar faces from last week, so thanks for coming back. For those of you that might not know about AthLife, a quick overview. We have been around for over 15 years. And over the past 15 years, through our relationships with the various partners that you see on your screen, we've provided thousands of professional and post-professional athletes support in meeting their professional development goals, doing things like what we're doing today. And as we think about professional development and we think about tools in your toolkit, I would put LinkedIn at the top of that list. One word, when I think about LinkedIn, it's powerful. And we're going to learn more about that today. So with that, we're lucky today. We're fortunate to have with us Kelvin Beecham, one of your peers, who I would put in the power user category of LinkedIn. So Kelvin, to get us started, can you talk about maybe 2 or 3 of the top benefits that you have found from using LinkedIn?
The power of LinkedIn for me has boiled down to just a couple of things. One, it's been a public-facing platform to be able to talk to professionals, people who live, breathe, and do business on a daily basis. And then secondly, is to build credibility. You build credibility on the field by the way that you play, the relationships that you build on the field. And I think that same thing has to happen within the business world and within the professional world. So being able to build that credibility is something that I've aspired to really do with this LinkedIn page. It's been a work in progress. It's been an evolution. My LinkedIn page now compared to my LinkedIn page when I was in Pittsburgh is completely different. So it's taken time. It's taken conversations like this. I've actually went to LinkedIn, and AthLife actually helped me get in the door at LinkedIn to actually have them walk through with me to how to build this platform. And that relationship with LinkedIn has actually exploded because of relationships like this and conversations like this. So excited to share and excited to share best practices.
My name is Maria Kroll. I am one of the advisors at AthLife. I've been with the team for over 6 years. Before I go into the top 3 reasons that we think you should have a LinkedIn profile, I want to ask the group, those of you that don't have a profile, maybe share why you are drawn to this presentation, why you want to have a profile, or those of you that have been actively on LinkedIn, why do you use LinkedIn? Why is it important to you?
I've actually been active on LinkedIn probably, I would say, for the last 2 years, genuinely active. I've been on the platform for a long, long time. And I can certainly, in light of the last 2 years, really kind of take an interest in trying to really take some steps toward working toward what a solid LinkedIn profile looks like. Has been really a neat journey for me. And I think I've probably stood to benefit a little bit more working toward trying to actually balance out how can I give as much as I've been given, because I've received support from my charity efforts through some initial relationships and a couple posts through LinkedIn. And I've been on that, I guess you could say, that unintentional path through the years of almost accepting just about everybody as as a public facing person. So tons of contacts with all kinds of asks, needs, agendas that I can't personally tend to. So I'm still minding the field. It's really powerful, and I know everyone is probably aware in the last couple of years with the amount of content that's going through the platform, and the organic reach has been immeasurable, especially since I've had some other agendas. So I couldn't just be more of a personal advocate, as well as an advocate for our players to begin to learn this platform and get involved.
So some of the reasons that we identified for those of you that maybe are still learning a little bit about the platform, at the basic, it provides you an opportunity to network and to build meaningful connections. There are so many people on this platform that can bring value to you, that you can bring value to. It also helps you build your personal and your professional brand. As Kelvin mentioned, it helps him establish his credibility in whatever it is that you choose to do, in whatever a path that you continue beyond your sport. You want to establish your personal brand, and LinkedIn is a great way to do that. And it's also a great tool for researching maybe future paths that you want to pursue. It's a great tool to search different careers, companies, jobs, and individuals that you want to learn more about.
We are going to talk about our session goals. And the first one, as Carrie had mentioned earlier, is to assist with developing your basic LinkedIn profile, and also provide some examples to help you with that. We will talk about ways to maximize your utilization of LinkedIn, talking about the search features and filters and ways to kind of make it easier to find connections, jobs, other things like that. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how you can actually build and nurture your LinkedIn network. What's the best way to reach out to connections, and then also use your LinkedIn network to your benefit.
Again, this is going to be an introduction to how you're going to help start building your profile. And if you go to the next slide, this area is part of what's called your introduction card. This is really the first thing that people are going to see when they come to your profile, so it's important for you to make a good first impression here. The first thing we want to talk about is your photo. Again, this should be a professional photo. Why is a photo important? Because studies and data have shown that profiles with photographs or photos do get more views, and you do get more messaging. So it's important to have a good professional photo. One of the other things why you want to have a photo with your face being shown is also to make sure that you're recognizable, especially for football players. You have a helmet on when you're playing, when you're on TV, so people really can't recognize you. So when you put a name to your face to your name, it's important that people are able to recognize you out in social settings. And then the last area is area underneath your name and your picture, which is called the headline. Really, the headline here is you have 120 characters that you can utilize for this particular area. So it's a great way for you to explain who you are and what you do to your audience. And it's also a good place where you can have an attention grabber, such as what John did here, utilizing a quote, as long as it's in alignment with your brand or your personality, like we said before.
For me, I would just change up the pictures from time to time. Much like you can do on any other social media platform, you can change that picture and that background picture. And for me, I've actually utilized those pictures quite often. Most times at the beginning of the training camp, I actually use a football picture as that kind of first picture with a business photo in the background. And as we come out of training camp, use a more professional picture. So, I would just mix it up, and experiment with different things. And the thing about LinkedIn is you can actually measure the type of impact that you have when you change that picture, how many views you got when you change something. So to be able to use those services and those resources to be able to change up those background pictures and kind of the profile picture, I think, will serve our players well as well.
So after you have created a great headline, whether it be your position or your skills or an attention grabber or a quote, the next very important part of your profile is your about section. And this is a part where you want to spend some time really on. You want to draft a compelling summary about you. Here on your screen, you are seeing Kelvin's about section, which is a really good example of a well-crafted and compelling summary. You want your about section to be 40 words or more, so you don't want to just write one sentence. You want to make sure that you're using keywords instead of buzzwords. And what we mean by that is don't just put things like self-motivated, team player, goal-oriented, but maybe other things like engaged in community outreach, delivered speeches, analyzed, data information that resulted in something. You want to find those words that, people, if somebody's searching for someone with certain experience, that you're telling us how you acquired those skills. And you also can list your accomplishments. There are 3 things that you want to really use to tell your story in the About section. 3 parts, where you've been, where you are, and where you're going, which here, Kelvin does a great job. He talks about what he did in his time as a college student athlete at SMU and some of the experience he got there, some of the current things that he's doing as a professional football player or recently has done, and then what his goal is, which you see it at the end of his About section, to provide access to educational programming to minority students. So he kind of has covered those areas. That's a good way to frame your About section, to really write a good, compelling summary about you.
I think personally, I would include a good summary of my background as far as college and my major and things that I did as like extracurricular stuff while in school. On top of that, also include things that I'm interested about and things that I want to pursue. If I am still active, things that I want to pursue when I am done, or things that I want to pursue during the off season. Whether that be in industry, in finance, or real estate, things that I'm passionate about. And especially when that day comes when I do retire, I want to make sure that those things that I want to pursue are, in my About section, so that people can really get an understanding of my passions and my ambitions.
After you've written that well-written About section about you, you're going to move into your detailed work experience. So a lot of times we think of work experience like as, that job that you have. Well, playing football is your job, correct? And some of you are going to spend many years doing it. So this is something that you want to include in your experience section. And here we're giving you an example of how you can write that, how you can include some of those transferable skills, some of those keywords. So here we're using a snippet of Donald Brown's, former running back in the NFL, and how he wrote his experience during his time as a professional athlete. So he used 3 bullet points, which is perfect, 3 to 5 bullet points to highlight your accomplishments, the skills that you've acquired. You can see he wrote demonstrated commitment to team goals by attending all team meetings, practices, studying, and analyzing film. So right in that first bullet point, I see some really important keywords. He has some analytical skills, right? He is team-oriented, team player, and goal-oriented. And he didn't have to write those buzzwords to accomplish that in this section. He also talks about his communication skills and ability to be a speaker by saying that he delivered speeches in positional unit and positional meetings during his NFL career to provide insight of opponents' weekly goals and strategy. He also talked about his time management skill by writing meticulously planned off-season endeavors, balancing family workouts, philanthropic outreach programs, and continued education opportunities. For those of you that are active and think like, oh, I don't have any experience, you do. And you can start listing those things now, whether it be things that you've acquired through off-season opportunities that you've had and things that you've done as a player. There are many transferable skills that you acquire as an athlete that you can articulate in different ways to build your professional experience. And in the next slide, we're going to see another way that you can articulate your experience in your experience section. So now we're going to look at Kelvin's profile. So Kelvin writes, he has other things besides football listed here as well. And he writes a little snippet of what he's done in that position, as well as include media. One of the nice things about LinkedIn is the ability that you can, highlight. Here he's is highlighting his ability to speak by putting videos of him speaking, giving a keynote speech. So this is a great opportunity where you can post any maybe interviews that you have given, speeches that you've presented, any charity philanthropic work that you have done that maybe there was some media about, or if you've written anything for a blog, any articles that have been published can be uploaded to your LinkedIn profile to highlight your experience.
So after your experience section, it's time to work on your education section. So here is an example. Again, this is Donald Brown's. And so here is where you're going to list your college. bachelor's degree, if you've earned a degree, you can go ahead and list that with your major and the years. If you are currently enrolled, you can go ahead and definitely still list it with your maybe expected graduation date. And then if you are not enrolled, go ahead and list it with the years attended. Feel free to put in there, I think you can see on Donald's, he listed some activities he was involved with. You might have some football honors or captain or something like that. You can also definitely include that under the education section. You can see he put his icons, which I think are nice to see on the profile. And also, you can also list any type of certifications or licenses that you have. And you can see here, he listed his Wharton School NFL education program that he attended.
I want to make sure that you all know that, like, much like we put the same work in on the football field, you got to put work into this platform. This platform will work for you if you're willing to work it, you know, whether that's inputting information that is relevant to you and your career, or whether that's, you know, relevant to the aspirations that you have, you know, on the platform. And then it's a way to engage in the community of LinkedIn. You know, one of the things that I know we're going to get to within this presentation is how to build and nurture your platform. The way that you build and nurture your platform is actually getting on it, interacting with people. And sometimes it's people you don't even know, being able to jump into different conversations and different groups, and just having candid dialogue. A lot of people, you know, feel that athletes are not touchable. We're not, you know, we can't relate. But you'd be surprised if you actually just jump in conversations and be vulnerable and be transparent. It'll be many people that you know, will start following your career from a business standpoint. And that actually leads to that economic impact that we're all looking for in some shape, form, or fashion. You know, people start hitting you up in your DMs and sending messages wanting to, you know, have you come in and speak, have you come in and work with their brand, just due to the conversations that they've had on LinkedIn. So really can't say it enough, but really utilize this platform as best you can. I'm available. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm very, very active. I try to make sure that I respond to messages as fast as possible, and find ways to engage. So if I can be of resource or be helpful in any way, Dior, the Athlife team will find a way to get us connected. I'm always willing to share best practices and thoughts and actually help you, you know, maximize this platform as best we all can. So we're in this together. Thanks again for having me.
And this is an important section of your profile. This is also Kelvin's. And so just a way to list your volunteer experiences or any causes that you're involved with, to list this on your profile. Volunteer experience definitely counts. Many times I think employers feel like it's just as valuable as paid experience. So don't discount it, and definitely include that as part of your profile. And I think Maria mentioned keep it current. So update it as you go so you don't forget. Some guys think they don't have any volunteer experience, and then when you start talking, you realize that you do have a lot of meaningful experience that you can include on this page. This is a great feature. You can find and join groups. It's a professional forums for professionals with different interests, specific interests, industry. It's a way for you to connect with other professionals and learn from each other, discuss, have information. There's a way to search where you can put in keywords to make it real easy. I think some groups are private where you might have to request to join. Others you can just click and join, and you'll get, you know, great content on that industry or that interest area for you to continue to learn and grow.
I'm John. I'm the CEO and founder of Athlife, and LinkedIn has been something 10 years ago when I first really forged a relationship with them. It was a nice thing to have. We said, hey, this is something you guys should consider. To Carrie's point about it being powerful, now it's critical that not only that you have a profile, but that it's tight and that you're actively using it. And the groups feature is just one of those key things. If, Mo, you had mentioned you're interested in real estate, there's, commercial real estate, there's residential, and a variety of other different types of forums on real estate as an example. you can join one of those groups and just learn. You can be passive. You can read, and when you join groups, what the algorithms on the back end of LinkedIn will then start feeding news into your news feed and feeding, connections that are already in your network that are in the real estate business. And that's going to help you get connected to the right type of people. It's not just connecting to everybody, it's connecting to the right type of people. We can talk about some rules around that later, but joining the groups is not only going to provide information where you can just passively learn and read, but then you can ask questions, or as you get more comfortable, for this great book, or I was reading about, what's going on right now with COVID and commercial real estate. This was really interesting. So I know I've used it. I'm in different groups, including the National Career Development Association and their forums, and I'm constantly learning. I probably bug our staff on our Slack channel with all these really great articles I'm reading, and I get a lot of my news from LinkedIn, and it's curated news. It's not news that's dumped into me from an Apple app based upon what I've been clicking on. It's actually much more focused on what I've chosen that I want to see. So I'd really encourage you to explore. Maybe just join one to start and just kind of play around with it from there.
Yeah, I would mention, or just ask everybody, if they haven't done so already, go ahead and join your college alumni group. That's a great first start to connect maybe with others who might be in your area, and could lead to some networking events and ways to connect with others. So that's a good first group to start. Great.
So now that you hopefully have built this amazing profile and you've covered all the sections that we talked about, there's other sections that you'll see once you start building a profile that you can add, skills, endorsements, that sort of thing. But once you have your solid profile, you want to then develop your strategy to build and nurture your network. LinkedIn is a powerful tool for networking, for researching. And here are some things that you want to think about as you develop that strategy on how you're going to grow and build your network. You want to connect with people that you know off the bat, because then you'll have access to their network. You want to choose quality probably over quantity. Yes, we want to have large and meaningful networks, but you also want them to be very meaningful, and that they are of quality, that they're going to bring, that you can add value to them, they can bring value to you. Remember that connections go both ways, as Matt just mentioned. If somebody asks for something, be able to help, you never know when you're going to potentially need them as a resource. Keep up regular conversations. That can be done in many ways. You can reach out to people, maybe identify five people you want to reach out to, or if you want to congratulate them on a new job or a job anniversary that has been highlighted on their LinkedIn profile. You want to keep your network professionally relevant. If you know where, what industry, career you see yourself into, identify people to add to your network that are going to enhance your growth in that potential career. And just remember that the stronger the network, the further you will go.
What I was very fortunate, I think early on, I was probably a little more cautious with who I allowed in my network. And I'm glad now that I was, even though I have a large number of connections, but I've met or talked to most of them. So I have a set of rules. So if you're a current or former professional athlete, clearly you're someone we're open to connecting with. Other people in the sports industry generally, I'm open to connecting with them. People who went to my college or university, but there are times where somebody, it might be, hey, I'm a financial advisor and I went to your college or university, and I know what their goal is to try to go get a relationship with you guys and get your money. So usually I deny those. But sometimes I'm intrigued. They maybe don't fit that rule box, but I'm interested in the work that they're doing. So there's a way to send a message to somebody and say, hey, I'm really interested in learning a little bit more about you. Can you provide information? Or further, sometimes I'll say, can I get a 10-minute call so I can at least have spoken to you about, so I can know that if somebody is going to come to me, let's say Matt comes to me and says, hey, John, it seems like you know so-and-so, I can say, well, I connected with them one time. I don't really know them well, but, you know, versus people who I do know very, very well. So I think the headline is come up with a set of rules that's going to work for you. And I'd say there's one of our favorite authors is Dan Pink, and he has a thing called, if it's not hell yes, it's no. So start with that. And then there are people who are trying to connect with as many people as possible because their business is connected with as many people as possible. So you may evolve to that. But I would just start with keeping your networks tight, and don't feel the pressure that you have to accept invitations from people. I go in once a week and I'm just deleting random invites that come my way. Nothing wrong with doing that. And there's nothing wrong with disconnecting from somebody. You can go through and clean that up. And David, you spoke to that. David Tyree, you spoke to that a little bit. At one point, you were just gathering everybody, and you may be, the horse may be out of the barn on that with you being able to go and delete everybody. But certainly moving forward, you could probably be a little bit more judicious, right?
Yeah, this was probably the one place I could easily step in on. Like I said, I probably start this profile in 2011 and don't start paying real attention to it other than the random, you know, accepting every invitation with no aim because you're in this position as a public profile. So I don't think it's necessarily, depending on who you are, I don't think it's altogether a bad thing because the way the platform has changed now. Say hello, Sammy. Yeah, so the way the platform has changed, you know, it makes room for almost every kind of profession. An influencer, it makes room for the fitness community. It makes room for the motivational. So as an athlete now, LinkedIn has really progressed in such a pretty dynamic way where, yeah, you know what, you can have these random people, but these previous couple tools here, as far as learning how to narrow that reach when you do have an intention, is really about, okay, what are my goals? What are my values? And then I began to kind of create a sub community aside from the larger pool. So that's kind of the strategy that I'm slowly working toward. But it is going to take, as Calvin mentioned before he departed, it's going to take some effort. So just realize that every platform is its own community that actually does take some effort, some intention, and some engagement if we're looking for some genuine results from it. But I can be assured that I've got some really good, solid connections with, I would even say, minimal effort. I think the main thing is choose quality or quantity, and that's depending on what your goals are. I already had the quantity, so there was no point in despising it. You know, I knew I was never going to, you know, I think there's been 3 to 10 people over those past couple of years that, you know, yeah, actually there's true interaction and there's a relationship that started on LinkedIn. So, you know, which I never would have imagined, you know, one of which is on the board of you know, Children of the City, where I've been on the board for the last 10 years. So I'm talking about meaningful relationships that really can impact your life, your goals. And it's because people want to help. And for many of us in the athlete community, we have the added advantage of you know, most people want to be a part of that in some way. So I think it's up to us to understand what our values and what our goals are, and leverage that inside of this extremely intent. Like LinkedIn I would say it's a community that wants to do versus a community more, you know, that just wants to hang out. So there's probably a little more doers in the LinkedIn community than there are just people hanging around trying to be cool. So it will lead to a more purposeful end.
As we close out the presentation today, I wanted to just take a moment to highlight the key takeaways that we hope you are walking away with. First, complete each section of your profile. Take the time to make sure it's the language that you want to represent your brand. Have someone take a look at it for you to make sure that you've eliminated any typos, any grammar areas. And also, Carly had put a comment in the chat that said, "Be you." Let your personality come through your LinkedIn profile. We're going to talk about resume next week. That's where you have to be a little bit more formal. But with your LinkedIn profile, let your personality come through. So again, just making sure it's professional, because sometimes a hesitation we have heard is, I have enough social media. I don't want to get in another social media platform. LinkedIn is a professional networking platform, different than social media. Don't put it in that bucket. So keep it professional, keep it tight, but be you. And then, as has been mentioned, develop a strategy and stick to it. And how is it going to build your brand? And there were a lot of nuggets that were planted today to give you some suggestions and strategies to do that.
As an athlete, this is one of the platforms and one of the things you can be doing while you're still focusing on your profession. Because we know as a professional, your job and your number one focus is being on the field, being on the court, whatever that looks like. But this is one of the things that you can leverage while you're still playing that'll set you up for success in the near future. And so just keep that in mind and like use it to your advantage. Two, and this is something that I kind of do with my LinkedIn, is I do write a lot of like articles or tidbits based on how I've navigated my professional career and things that that I can relate to, or things that are pertinent to me. I do that for a couple of reasons. One, I like writing, but two, it shows the potential employers and other people just your thought process, because 9 times out of 10, someone is probably struggling with some of the same things you're struggling with. So for instance, one of the things I wrote about was get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's the moment you grow. And so that gave people insight into, look, it may, I may look, well off my profession, but there are some areas that have helped me get there. So I encourage anyone, like if there's an area that you maybe are struggling with that you overcame, or something you can write about that kind of shows your personality or your character, your skill set, that's good, because it shows that there's some relatability there, and then also just kind of shows kind of where you stand from it.
I just wanted to give a little perspective kind of from the other side, just of the way John and Dior, and I think a way we can sort of take away, it's not sort of seeing that if you reach out to someone, it doesn't mean that they're not interested in responding, because sort of myself and Afani have talked about this. We are on that beginning side of looking for sort of connections and building networks and building relationships. It's one of those, if, like, for example, Dior writes a piece, if he doesn't answer your message right away, it doesn't mean he doesn't want to connect with you. You can comment on a piece he writes, or if it's another field you're interested in, if it's a person you want to talk to and your message goes unanswered, you can also reach out sort of in their, whatever they're responding to or whatever groups they're in, and sort of find them through a common article or sort of topic they can be in on. And that's just sort of a approach that I've sort of been able to take, because as you guys have all sort of mentioned, you get a lot of messaging and it's hard to respond to everyone. So while your sports background will help you stick out and allow, sports interested people to want to talk to you, it's another route you can take to sort of get yourself in front of them and have a professional who's more established, have that 5 to 10 minutes to talk to you or build whatever relationship you're looking for. So
a quick challenge to the group, take a moment, log into your LinkedIn profile, connect with someone on today's call. A quick strategy I would offer that will separate you from others is offer a personal note in your LinkedIn request. That separates you already. Make a personal connection. It's while it's still, I can still delete those that have a note, it's harder. So go ahead and do that. If you don't have a profile yet, once you've got your profile together, make a note to yourself to connect in with some of the folks on today's call. It was mentioned a few times today that while you are going to get a lot of great information today, there's more work to do. And so there's some homework to do to tighten up your profile, continue to maximize utilization. If you're still seeking more, either as a follow-up to last week's session on personal branding and networking strategies, or on LinkedIn, or you want to prep in advance for next week on resume, we do offer some online self-paced courses that are available to you. Shoot me an email or use the QR code to get access, and we'll get you registered and enrolled in those courses.